we're able to learn a few things about MAXQDA, which is an amazing software package for qualitative data analysis. Of course, we are not going to be able to learn everything about MAXQDA today. And of course, I'm always open to consultations after now because it's like a broad topic, and we're just gonna, look through it on the surface. It's going to be a presentation style um, lecture today or workshop today, just because um, I'm thinking that some of you don't have MassQDA downloaded already, and so we are not going to be having like an hand on deck workshop today due to that. So let's take it away. So I know that today we're going to be talking about qualitative coding, because one of the mistakes that we pretty much make as researchers, or when we're giving lectures about this kind of topic, is that we assume that people know the background knowledge of coding already, especially in qualitative data. I remember I was at Denver a couple of months ago, and I was presenting on qualitative research, and I was presenting on coding actually in qualitative research. And someone came to meet me after the presentation, and she said, "Is there anything like coding in qualitative research?" So the answer is yes. Some people don't know that. So I would not ignore talking about coding, the theoretical part a little bit before we then get into the practical sessions. And hopefully, perhaps next spring or thereabouts, we can do a more hands-on deck kind of workshop where you also have access to MassQDA, and we can walk through it together if you are interested. So today, yeah, we'll be talking about qualitative coding. We're going to be talking about the types of qualitative coding, levels to coding. We're going to be talking about validity, reliability, and confidentiality when it comes to qualitative data analysis. And of course, we're going to give an actual look into MassQDA today, amongst other software packages. Okay, so MAXQDA licenses are available here in the libraries. Yay! And we're happy about that. We're working to finalize the process. So in a couple of months, or even few weeks, I'm sure that anyone who comes to the Research Commons, or asks any of the experts around here, will be able to like get a free access to MaxQDA in the university libraries. Also, there's a free trial online if you want to check it out. If you want to, start trying on how to use MaxQDA, you can. I would send this resource after the workshop, and you can access the free trial. There are also other coding resources. If after the workshop, you just want to like, learn more about MaxQDA before a consultation with me, or you just want to go and just learn more by yourself, these are also resources that I will send after now. Well, people tend to ask me every time that, okay, so what's the difference between NVivo and MaxQDA? This seems like arguably the most common software packages in the qualitative space. Well, um, MassQDA is much more easier to understand, to navigate, to comprehend compared to NVivo. Both are great resources, great resources. But the interface of NVivo is a little bit more cumbersome. A little bit, you have to, be know exactly what you're doing, because they have different spaces for different things, for some ad data visualization stuff on NVivo. But MaxQDA, if you're a beginner and you want to learn about qualitative coding, it's very beginner friendly, very easy to learn, very easy to navigate, and I hope that you find that to be true as we get along and as I show you this. Okay, quick one. I'm going to run through the slides very quickly in about, I hope, 20 minutes, just so we can, or 30, just so we can get into the actual MaxQDA software. So coding, qualitative coding is just very simple. It's just you trying to get a descriptive label or labels and identify related content in your data that you can assign to those descriptive labels. When I mean descriptive labels, I mean like your code or your team, so those are like an overarching label where you can then assign related contents or contents that matter to you in your data that you've collected. Then you begin to assign them in a way that makes sense for you and for answering your research questions. So basically that's what qualitative coding is. So you just create a code and you categorize them under the teams that you have created, either using deductive or inductive approach. And we're going to get to that in a minute when we talk about deductive and inductive approach. So what are some of the ways that we can code qualitative data? And let's think about types of data to code. There's an amazing technological development now where you can literally upload anything in these software packages and code on them. You can upload tweets, you can upload videos, audios, your observation notes, PDFs. I think the only thing you cannot upload on MAXQDA or NVivo, based on my knowledge, recent knowledge so far, is you cannot upload PowerPoints. So if you have a PowerPoint and you want to code through that, you have to like change that into either PDF or something more durable that you can get to upload. And you will see that in a jiffy when we open the MAXQDA software. So also there are great transcription software out there. Of course, Zoom is one, Otter AI. While MAXQDA is not a transcription software, it has these transcription softwares on them. But NVivo is a transcription, so you can actually transcribe on NVivo, but you cannot do that on MAXQDA. So ways of qualitative coding, there are different ways. There are like up to, and I recently realized that it might actually be more than that. But I intentionally left it 34 ways because those are the ones that I've tested and tried. So at least there are up to 34 ways to code qualitative data. You can do hand coding, you can use your Google Docs, you can use Excel, you can use Microsoft Word, you can have it on your paper and highlight them. You're still coding. But now the research space is getting way more competitive, and anyone who codes qualitative data and submit an article and codes it using software packages are usually given more credibility. So their articles are usually taken more seriously. That's if you're planning on learning this so you can apply it to some of your research or some of your work, either with your students, or if you're a student here, you're trying to produce a research using mixed methods or however. I would say rather than hand coding or using Google Docs or using Microsoft Word or Excel or what have you, I would say you should try to lean more towards using a software package because it's more credible. The peer reviewers will give it more credibility. They would recognize it as being more formal and more academic in nature. So but there are other ways apart from statistical packages that you can code, and these are some of the ways. There are lot of other ways to do that. So what are some of the statistical packages out there, especially the most common ones? Well, of course, we have NVivo, Deduce, MAXQDA, Quacos, Delve, CADAS. This is actually the CADAS is actually available with a Qual Lab. But Qualab is still in the process of regeneration right now. So I can say for sure that if you need access to any of these software packages, we have only two that I can tell for sure that are available in the libraries, and that's NVivo and MAXQDA, which of course will be grounded in a couple of weeks' time. You can just check in anytime you feel like you need it, and then you can work with the expert to make sure you get access when it's available. So stages and approaches to qualitative coding. We have stages, we have, styles, we have segments. There's a way you code. If you want to do your coding properly, there's a way you can do it where it comes out fine and you're not going here and there while coding. And so we have the first we have the second, and we have the third circle coding. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but let me just quickly deter to approaches to coding. So we also have approaches to coding. We have the deductive style and we have the inductive style. So easy peasy. The deductive style is you have your hypothesis already. You have what you're thinking already. You have your theory. You have, you have your predetermined themes. Maybe why, as a researcher, why you're conducting your interviews. You just can tell that collaboration should be one of the themes. You just can tell that communication, recovery should be one of the themes, for example. So, and then you put it down without even looking through the data carefully yet. So that's a kind of, deductive coding. And then after you put your themes down, you allow the data to speak to you. And then after the data has spoken to you, that is, you look through the data to see if anything is under collaboration or under recovery or under any of these themes. And then you begin to scrap out anything you've written down and it's not in the data. So you're confirming that it's not in the data or is in the data. So deductive coding is kind of like a top-down approach where you have your themes first, you have your hypothesis first, and then you allow your data speak to you. Deductive coding, inductive coding is the other way around. So inductive coding is the other way around. So in inductive coding, you go there as a blank slate. So you just allow your data to speak to you. And of course, in inductive coding, you will have a lot of surprises. You have unexpected themes coming up that you didn't expect because you created an arm's-length relationship with your data. And you did not deduce anything. You just allow the data to speak to you, and then you create new theories and new themes from that. And as I get along, if you have any question, just let me know in the chat, and I can answer it while we get along, or we can move it to the end of the lecture. So, an example, let's thinking about deductive hand coding, for example. When you want to do a deductive hand coding, I think I just explained it in bulk in the other slide. It's just what I've talked about. You just put it down in your document if you're going to be doing hand coding. Put it down in your document, you create your codes, and then you assign definitions to them. You just make it smooth like that. Usually, hand coding is good for a first circle coding, but I would not advise for you to use only hand coding throughout your coding time. So you can use hand coding, like get a pen and paper, or maybe on your laptop, just put down some of the things you're thinking about, or some of the things that while looking at your data in the first 2 minutes just jumps at you, and you know this would actually be a theme. So you can put it down. But as you get along, you have to upload that code book or what have you, or your documents to the software package and actually do it through the software package. So this is just a little bit of what I said in the other slide. So I'm just going to jump quickly. But if you have any question, let me know. So this is an example of, maybe creating, an Excel file or creating a table, and then you're thinking about teams. You're putting it down, you're giving it an operational definition. This is very, very important. So you have to make sure you define your teams, because what collaboration can mean in a particular research can be entirely different from what collaboration would mean in another research. So anyone who is, if you're submitting your research or your paper into a peer-reviewed journal, they would also, anyone who is have a good knowledge of how qualitative research works, they always look out for your operational definition. They want to see what collaboration, what have you, think about work burnout, risk assessment, what disaster recovery, what does it mean for your research? It's very pivotal to have that at the back of your mind and always add it to your research and to your analysis space. Yeah, so this is an example of what a second circle coding then looks like after you've uploaded it to your software package. I just brought this out, and I did it this way so you can have an idea of what it looks like, but you're going to see it on the software package. You have to make sure that it's cleaner, then you begin to think in your second cycle coding, you begin to think about daughter codes. That's what we call parents and daughter codes or subcodes when it comes to qualitative research. So you can start thinking about that. Then you begin to fine tune your definitions. Then even some people like to give examples relating to their definition. But all that I would suggest that it is being done on the software package. And you see that in a minute. Okay, so this is an example of a third circle sample. So after that, after you've done all the coding in the second circle space, then you can then of course export your project and have something like this in your write-up, in your article, in your dissertation. This is an excerpt from my doctoral dissertation, and you can see that the third circle sample is, I make sure that I even detailed it in my work, and I even gave some abbreviations to the code. You can do that if you like, and also making sure that every theme that I have brought out is embedded in my write-up. So you also start thinking about how to actually give direct quotes from your research. So you just need to think about all those. Think about making sure that it is more fine-tuned. Your definitions are in your article. Like, make sure it shouldn't be just on your software package. It has to also be in your article, so that those reviewing or just an ordinary person who is not expert in your field can take up your work and read it and understand. So make sure that some of these important stuff are detailed in your article, and then you link that to your research question, you link that to your studies, your objectives, your theory, and also embed it in your analysis in a way that makes sense. So that's what an overarching coding and a result of that coding should look like. Okay, now quickly, we're almost getting to the end of the slides, which is great because I'd like to show you. So when we're thinking about qualitative data for validity, reliability, and confidentiality, there's some salient things you need to think about when working with qualitative research. Of course, you need to think about your IRB approval for your data collection. It's very important. Those are the things that are, important for the validity of your work. Of course, you also need to seek consent from the community or from the focus group or from the target population that you're thinking about collecting data from. And some of the ways to get access to this population is through, community champions. You identify someone who is well versed in that community, and then that person, or it might be a community group. It can be anyone literally, but those channels are the ways that you get consent into the community. You share with them, and that way they can lead you to individuals where you share the same concerns with them. Some of the problems that researchers have is they have a target population, they know the community, but the question is they don't just want to go around the community sharing their research with individuals. They're looking for a way to get a large number of people at the same time. And that's where consent with community champions or community groups can be very, very lucrative, like beneficial. So when you're thinking about your research and sharing your survey or trying to get interviews, either using a snowball approach or whatever approach you're thinking, think about community champions. That's worked for me so many times where I didn't need to struggle much. Once I found someone who is like reliable in the community that I'm thinking about, just a channel, I'm able to get across to a lot of people at a time, especially when you're thinking about interviews. So also think about your data saturation level when you're coding. That's part of the reliability process. We talked about validity. Now let's talk about reliability of the research, actually. So for example, if you're doing what's it called, an interview, if you're doing interviews, according to Botex 1981, and it has served through these years, the argument is that you do not get to a state of saturation until you've interviewed between 6 to 12 people. So when I mean a state of saturation, it means that it's a state of where you can actually feel like you have everything you need to analyze your work. So in the state of saturation, when you get to like the 6th, the 12th person, depending on how large your research is, you begin to see reoccurrence. You begin to see people saying the same thing. You begin to see similarities. And when you begin to see that, that will be a sign that if someone, few people, like 8 people are already talking about collaboration, they're talking about the same thing in different ways, of course. It shows that you're getting to a saturation level where you feel like you can now begin to code. You can now begin to do coding on your work. Also, you need to think about, especially if you're submitting to a peer-reviewed journal or to any kind of journal, make sure you also think about your inter-rater or intercoder reliability check, where you get another researcher to code your work with you. So it's not just you. Like, look for someone else's perspective. Can they catch what you've caught in your data analysis? If you have good similarities, up to 80% actually, if you're going to do that, whenever we want to do a inter-rater reliability check on any of the software packages, the demand is that there has to be a similarity between 2 persons' code book of up to 80%. So that's where your work becomes like more reliable. And peer reviewer check, especially in high level top journals, they look out for this when it comes to qualitative research. They want to know how reliable it is. So that's a great way to do it. So don't code it alone. Get someone else or 2 more people to code with you to attain that synergy. Okay, for confidentiality, of course, when you're doing your qualitative research, you have to, especially when it's on a sensitive topic, we can just say Karen said this, it can have a negative effect, especially when it comes to sensitive topics. So think about your unique identifiers. Do you want to use participant hey or interviewee one, or just look for that unique identifier that you can apply to your studies, so your participants remain confidential, especially when they demand it. So I know so many of us already know this, but it's just important for us to iterate this so that we can get a good foundation about qualitative coding and not just do the coding and not have this important information about it. So, like I said, I'm going to skip this because I want us to move into hand coding. Is great, but is appropriate for a small-sized project. Maybe, that you do not plan to even publish or anything. Maybe you just want to get like an information about a particular matter that you plan to present somewhere. You can do a hand coding. But when you're thinking about a large research that will impact so many things that you plan to submit to a journal, of course, it's better to use a software package. Of course, I talked about an operational definition. Make sure that your definition speaks to your actual research. So today we're going to be talking about MAXQDA out of all these software packages we mentioned. Okay, so we're going to get into that in 2 minutes. But before you think about coding your work, some of the things you have to keep in mind is you have to have prepared your transcriptions, or you have to have prepared your audios. Like you have to, if you just need a particular segment of the audio, don't upload 5 hours audio or 3 hours, or just streamline it to what you want, and then you can upload it to the software package and then use it that way. So when you're preparing your code book, especially if you're doing a deductive coding, before uploading them, make sure that you get a good impression from your transcription. So when you're thinking about a code book, and you're thinking about or deductive coding, or even if you're thinking about an inductive coding, make sure you already kind of like have a first or second impression of your work, even though you're going to create an arm's length relationship when it comes to inductive, and you separate yourself from that research in order to get the best. Also, there's room for data triangulation. You can also combine data. Some people like to do mixed method research, and they also like to do mixed instruments. They like to combine interviews with survey, with observation data. Some like to do combine archival data. Some use articles, so you can combine data in a way that makes sense and draw out your theory and your themes from all this triangulation of data that you upload. So just to say it's possible, you don't have to only upload interviews or survey for your work. You can upload different instruments, result of a different instrument and upload them to your work. Okay, quickly, this is just what we've been talking about, know your data, get a first or second impression by Brown and Clegg. So make sure you look through your codes before uploading them, just to kind of like have a fine line of what you want to get, the results you want to get on the software package. So think about all these things before you get into the actual package, so it's going to be smooth for you. We've talked about teams and sub-teams. I just want to go quickly. I'm eager to get. Okay, let me just quickly say that when you're coding, you can decide to go code word by word. You can decide to code paragraph by paragraph. Of course, most people don't code word for word, or some people try to code sentence by sentence, but to be more effective and to have a quick end to your coding, you can decide to code paragraph by paragraph. However, if there's a particular sentence that is so important to you and you want to make sure you get a hold of that sentence, then you can decide to code that sentence. So you can decide to also combine them. Sometimes you code sentence, sometimes you code paragraph by paragraph. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Today we're going to just run through this. Now we're going to import data and we're going to set up our codes. We're going to begin coding. We're going to see if we can analyze our codes. If not, if you need to, because of time, if you need to do that, if you need support on doing an iterator check, just let me know. I'll be happy to have a consultation with you, and we can walk through that together. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Right? If you can see my screen right, I just need one or two people to let me know that you can still see my screen. Yeah? Okay, cool. Great. Okay, so for this interface, this is an example of a MAXQDA interface. And this is a project that is already ongoing. It's about work-life balance, and the project is already kind of like full, so you can see what is happening. You can see some of the codes that are going on, that are flying here and there. But what I want to do is I want to try to walk through the process with you. So I'm going to try to show you some of the steps that you can take when dealing with a new project. However, I can just show you quickly. This is to say, this is what a new project would look like if you want to start something from the beginning. However, because of time, I want to make sure that you know, get to see a project that is already existing, so we can walk through that. So I'm going to go back to the project that I just showed you. So first things first, let's learn how to import data. Is easy peasy. MAXQDA is one of the easiest software to navigate. So what you do is you just, go to import right here. And what kind of data do you want to import? Here we already have documents data. We have, interviews, these are documents, data, and their interviews. Let's try to see if we can import PDFs. You can literally, you can even import audios, you can import videos, but just because most researchers don't do that, they don't import. Some people don't import videos or audios. So let's limit it to PDF. So let's see if we can import this article. Okay, so did you see the way I just imported the article? Just easy. You just click on it and you import the article, and you see it right here. For those who do like systematic reviews of article, good for you. You can literally import your PDF articles directly, and then there you have it. So these are codes here. You have codes here. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit how to set up code and code definitions. So here I am. I want to try to set up a new code. So here you go. You're just going to come to this button here, this green plus here, and click on it, and then you set your new code. And maybe because I just imported a disaster recovery article, let's just say that our major code for that we want to work on will be recovery. 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 Okay, and then of course, to make your code distinct, as you can see, and what I showed you the other time, you could see different colors of code, just so you're able to separate each code from each other, codes from each other, so you can choose a color. And in the code memo, you can add your code definitions to the code memo. So maybe for recovery, you're talking about maybe for your particular project, you're talking about sea level rise, recovery. Why am I using V instead of recovery, or perhaps disaster response? So here we have our operational definition. Maybe for your work, that's what you're talking about. Um, well, that's what recovery means to you. So what you do after you put this in is that you click OK, and here we have it here. Here we have recovery. Now, for some people under recovery, they have some other things that they want to add under recovery, and they want to try to create a subcode, or what we call the daughter code, and for your recovery. So what you're going to do is you don't, let me just be clear, you don't go back here. If you go back here, that means you want to create a new code. So you go right on recovery and you click on the plus sign right there, and you create maybe one of the things that you want to add to as a daughter code under recovery is that you want to add collaboration. So you had it there. Get another color for collaboration so you can separate them. Maybe your definition, your operational definition for collaboration is, collaboration between government and private parastatals, or between federal, state, or and local government, or and whatever you see collaboration it means to you for a disaster response, then you can go ahead and and code it. You will see something interesting happen right here, which you can also see under other codes. You see that the collaboration, which is a subcode, comes right under recovery. So let's say we want to go ahead and create another subcode. What we will do is we'll do the same thing. Let's say the other subcode is maybe household needs. So maybe perhaps let's choose another color for that so we can identify the codes. I like to choose different colors when I'm doing that, so it just comes out finally. Maybe an operational definition for that would be maybe welfare for displaced household or persons. Provision, um, provision Mm. Welfare needs. So we'll stop here so I don't like bore us so much as we get along. But here is just what you have. Here's what it looks like once you're thinking about that. So what you do after that, let's say that now that you have your codes, what I just did is I just did a deductive code because I know we don't have time. Some people would already, have their deductive codes in a document and then upload the document and then start copying it and creating it this way. But I just did it at the top of my head, and many researchers also do that just to save time. So now that we have these codes on ground, maybe the first thing you want to do is that you want to start coding. So what you do is you just add your codes to the coding system. So you start by highlighting. Maybe this is talking about recovery. Let's assume that this is talking about recording. All you need to do is highlight and then drag that to your recovery code. So when you click on the recovery, you have it right here. You have your code state detailed right here, and you'll be able to also see that the color that I chose is finely represented here as well. For example, let's say we're thinking about this next one, and you want it to be under household needs. All you have to do is also drag it, and then you have it right there. And a good thing is you can, at the end of your coding, export this code segments right here. So you have like a code book already for each teams, which is a very good one. So you don't start racking your brain again when you start writing. You just go to the code book of each teams and you get what you need from it. So you can also choose to double code. You can, but before then, let me say that you can choose to, if you want to code, you don't always have to drag. You can just click, you can just highlight and then right click. And when you right click, the three most recent codes that you've worked on will come out, will be evident here. And so you can code that way. You can choose to code maybe collaboration. And then under collaboration, you also have it directly. So you do not always have to drag. You can choose to right click after a couple of codes where you can get the most recent codes when after you have right clicked. Also, you can choose to double code. You can use, you can do that. For example, if what has spoken to you on recovery also resonates with you when it comes to household needs, you can also choose to do that. So we already code recovery. Let's try to code household needs. And you see an interesting thing happened here. You see that it's suggesting that you just double coded. So you have both recovery and household needs. And when you click on household needs, that's for comments. Okay, no, I'm supposed to go here. When you click on household needs, you find out that you have it here. And when you click on recovery, which is the parents code, you also find out that you have that there. So it's just like easy peasy. Once you continue to look through the article and you have a knowledge of what you're looking for, the action words that would get you, you just begin to code that way. Another thing that I would like us to do is to think about keyboard shortcuts. For example, if you have a volume of articles that you like to code and you're tired of just dragging or right clicking and you want to create a keyboard shortcut to your code where you can just press control something and it codes under a particular code. All you need to do is go under codes. After you go under codes, you go to keyboard shortcuts for codes right here. And all you can do is drag whatever code you want the keyboard shortcuts for. And right here you have it there. So this is for recovery. Let's do another for household needs. and right there you have it there. So whenever you want to code something for recovery or household needs, now that we have it in the keyboard shortcuts, all you have to do is just highlight. When you highlight, and you can press Control 1. For example, I think for household needs, we had the keyboard shortcut was Control 1. So let's try for if you're using a Mac laptop, instead of Control, you have to use Command. So that's one. I didn't right click. I didn't drag anything. I just used the keyboard shortcut. Let's try another. Let's say we want to do this as well. We want to use a keyboard shortcut for household needs, and for what I've shown you right here, household needs is shortcut or Control or Command 2. So on your laptop, all you have to press is Control or Command 2, and you have it recorded. So those are just simple ways to code. I'll just go ahead so we don't waste all of our time on different ways to code. So one other thing that I would also like to talk about is how you can also have code favorites. So you can choose to have code favorites. Perhaps you have few codes that you are coding a lot, and you just want them to be part of your code favorites. So what you can do is, for example, here in the work that is already going on, satisfaction is a particular, is one code favorite. You can add another as well as part of your code favorites. And whenever you want to code, you don't have to drag as well. You can just highlight and go to your code favorite and just click it. You see that because I am in my code favorites and I just have them here, and I don't want to do a lot with volume of work because I'm coding a particular team, maybe on recovery. I can just open my code favorites and keep coding without dragging or without right clicking or without doing a lot of work looking for what I need to code. So I just highlight what I need to highlight and click on it. So do the same for, perhaps satisfaction, highlight and click on it. That way your coding will be way, it will be so much faster, and you can get ahead really quickly compared to people who spend, days coding. So one other thing I would also like us to begin to think about is, okay, we had talked about applying multiple codes to a segment. Here is a good example. You can even choose to like go all the way to, an entire paragraph. And, I like to use my code favorites for this and just do it that way. So you can literally double code anything. There's no problem double coding if you feel like it speaks to your research and you want to capture it in more than one themes. So one other thing that is also very useful when coding that researchers use a lot and do a lot is that you can do automatic coding. You can maybe have a volume of work you want to code. You have a lot of work, and you just want to try to see the most occurring words, and you want to try to automatically code them. What you can do is first, I would say that usually automatic coding is not always advised because it can be very. You might not get to it will just do like a large walk through your research. After automatic coding, you still have to go through your work and try to see what the coding has done and even try to recode again. So whenever you do automatic coding, you don't depend on that. You still have to like go through your work and recode to make sure that everything the automatic coding has done for you is what you actually need. So you can take off some codes if you don't want them again. You can, but just make sure that let's do that. Let's do automatic coding first, then I'll show you how you can just take off codes if you don't want them again. For automatic coding, all you need to do is to go to analysis, And just stay with me. I know this can be sometimes really tiring, but if you're not like in the interface and doing it with me, it can be very daunting. But just stay with me and see some of the ways that you can get along. So for automatic coding, after you go on your analysis, you go on your text search on the analysis where you can see autocode. So under the text search, you click on the text search and autocode. So for example, let's delete recovery so I can show you. For example, if what you need to code, you want to autocode is recovery. Maybe you want to code everything that has to do with recovery in your research. You want to try to run through that process. So after you type recovery, you want to autocode everything that has to do with recovery in your article. Then you would run it, go ahead and run it. And what you see is that in this particular article, we have 5 segments that the word recovery was actually mentioned. So that way you can, look through it. Now that it's automatically coded, if you look through your work and you scroll down, open that, I'm able to see some other spaces where, I think we already code most spaces that has the word recovery. Okay, let's do something again. Let's code autocode space that has household needs. Let's just type household needs and see what comes out. Or let's just reduce it to household and let's run the search. Okay, so we have diverse spaces here in the entire code book that we have 17 hits here that talks about household needs. So let's go ahead and see if we can auto-code the results with existing code, that is with the codes that we have here. So we'll click on that. We don't need any weight. Let's see. So now that we have auto-coded, you realize that if you look through this article, for example, you're going to be seeing various codes already made that you didn't drag in yourself, that you didn't do yourself, but it was auto-coded because you used autocode. So we have it here. We have various ones here. So after you autocode, you can then look through what this is talking about, if it actually resonates with your research. Perhaps if not all this paragraph resonates with your research and you want to kind of like see what exactly resonates to you the most, and you want to double code what resonates with you the most, you can look through and highlight what you actually need from the autocode and drag it wherever you want it to be, or code it again, or just to make sure that you are not just auto coding generally. It can be very difficult if you auto code and you cannot pin down what you actually need. So after you've auto coded, if you have a lot of interviews, still kind of like go through it and recode what you need. So the good thing about auto code is it just gives you an idea in the body of work where you are likely to find what you want, but don't depend on that alone when coding. Think about looking through them and then recode and then have it in your work. So another thing to also just mention that auto coding, I'm not saying that it is not great. It's great, but it's only good for it's effective when you're beginning your projects. When you get along, you have to start narrowing it down. And narrowing down. So when we think about analyzing data, because this is just like an introduction to MAXQDA, if you want to check your inter-rater reliability, and you need you need me, I'm happy to jump on a consultation with you. If you also like need another person experienced with coding and you want to just record your work, you want someone else to help you record your work, I'm also happy to help with that. Just an email away. But I just want to make sure that I show you what that we have an inter-rater liability check, or what we call inter-rater agreement on MAXQDA. This is also present on NVivo, but just so you have a look. So this is an example of an inter-rater agreement and interface, what it looks like. So two people, at least two people. For NVivo, it's usually there's opportunity for more than two people, but I see in MAXQDA, at least two people. Here we have only two available, but at least two people would code the same documents. Usually what people like to do is they just pick up their documents, pick up Microsoft documents, write their teams and their team definitions, and the other person does that, and we both upload them. We both upload them, you know, however way. The other person also uploads their documents, and after the uploading is done, I can't believe it. Interestingly, the overlapping has increased in I was thinking it was still 80%, but now you have to have at least 90% congruence. Like you have to agree at 90%, no longer 80%. It used to be 80%. I saw this yesterday, but I don't know why that didn't click. So you have to have 90% congruence. Like you have to agree, your teams have to be 90% the same before we can say that your project, your work, your teams are reliable. So two people upload, and after you upload, you have this become active. Let me just try it out with anything at all, just so you have an idea. So you think about how you want to code it. For some people, they want to make sure that their code overlap is on the same segment level with the other person, and after that, you go ahead and do for both coders, or you can choose to do for either coders. I think because we do not have an actual coded document here, it's a little bit difficult to navigate. I would actually have loved that everyone had access to a MAXQDA on here. So, but when you put it on there, you can just go ahead. When you have your documents, you can go ahead and then do an intercoder agreement. I don't know why this is not being active, but I can understand this can be very weird sometimes. Anyway, that's just one way to do an intercoder agreement. There are several ways. You can choose to also do it by encoding. You can just have your documents together and upload it in your appendix, in the appendix of your article or in the appendix of your project. That's another way to make sure that your peer reviewers see that your teams are in line with each other, and that you have similar teams, and that you agree on the same thing. And that's so important when you're coding a qualitative data, and you're thinking of submitting it to a peer review article. Just make sure you didn't code it alone. Make sure you didn't do it alone. Make sure you have someone else who has walked through the process with you, and got to code with you, and got to agree with some of the things that you have coded. So, and of course, when you're done with your work, if you want to export your project, all you need to do is just go here and type project, save project as, and when you type that, you're able to export it, you're able to save it the way you want. So yeah, I think these are just the most important things. I was not able to get in depth because I used to like it to be more interactive, where we follow step by step. But I hope that with this that we have shown together, you kind of like get an idea of what it looks like coding using MAXQDA, and the different ways that you can code, how you can drag, how you can right click, how you can use shortcuts, how you can use code favorites, and also how you can use auto coding and all. Um, I hope that you were able to get all that. And right now, because of our time, of course, I'm going to teach this again next spring, and that time we'll be able to have, a better grasp of everyone having some access, so it will be smoother and not um, too boring. But if you have any question at this point, just let me know, and I'll be happy to chime in before um, we call it a day. Or if you have a particular research you're working on and you have a specific question on that, just let me know. If not, I'll probably hand it over back to Gerard. Oh, thanks, Sanji. I'm happy that was helpful to you, because I was a little bit worried, because I'm going to give a presentation style that will people get it? I hope you get something out of this.
We'll go ahead and leave the chat up, and we'll stay on the call for just a couple of minutes here in case anybody has any further questions. At this point, I would just direct you to the resources we dropped in the chat, and just remind you that we will follow up with an email to all registered participants with the slide deck from Taiwo and anything else she'd like you to have after today's presentation. So thank you so much for being with us today. We'll stick around for just a couple minutes in case there are further questions, and we hope you have a great afternoon.
Oh, okay.